The hospital corridors smelled of antiseptic and broken dreams, but Sarah Chen had grown numb to both. She pressed her back against the cold wall outside room 314, clutching a crumpled tissue that had seen too many tears. Through the small window, she could see her 8-year-old daughter Emma lying motionless, connected to machines that beeped with mechanical indifference. The doctors had used words like experimental, last resort, and prepare yourself. But Sarah heard only the silence between the beeps, the space where her daughter's laughter used to live. What she didn't know was that 3 floors down, in the hospital's forgotten basement storage room, a night janitor named Miguel Rodriguez was about to change everything. Miguel had worked at St. Catherine's Medical Center for 12 years, invisible to most who passed him in the halls. His English carried the soft edges of his native Guatemala, and his calloused hands told stories of fields worked before floors were mopped. Every night he cleaned room 314, and every night he noticed the woman who never left the chair beside the small bed. He'd started leaving extra tissues on the bedside table, saying nothing, receiving only a grateful nod in return. Tonight was different. Tonight, Miguel was cleaning out storage room, B7, when he discovered something that would test everything he believed about miracles and second chances. Hidden behind decades of medical supplies and forgotten equipment, Miguel found a box labeled Patient Personal Effects 1987. Inside, wrapped in yellowed tissue paper, was a small wooden figurine, an angel with outstretched wings, no bigger than his thumb. Attached was a note in faded blue ink. For little Maria Santos, room 314, with love and prayers from her kindergarten. Class at Roosevelt Elementary. May angels watch over you always. Miguel's breath caught. He remembered Maria Santos. She had been the same age as Emma, battling the same rare cancer that had claimed so few victories in 1987. The angel had been found among her belongings after she didn't make it home. But that wasn't the miracle Miguel discovered that night. Tucked beneath the angel was a sealed envelope marked, Dr. Elizabeth Warren, confidential. Miguel hesitated. He wasn't supposed to open patient files, wasn't supposed to be curious about things above his pay grade, but something about the way the envelope had been carefully preserved, something about the coincidence of room 314, made him slide his finger under the seal. Inside was a research proposal dated 37 years ago, written in precise handwriting. Dr. Warren had documented a promising new treatment protocol for pediatric neuroblastoma, Emma's exact condition. The margins were filled with notes, calculations, and what looked like breakthrough discoveries. But stamped across the top in red ink were the words, funding denied, insufficient resources. Miguel's heart raced as he read. Further, Dr. Warren had been onto something revolutionary, a treatment that could have saved Maria Santos and dozens of children like her. But the hospital's board had deemed it too experimental, too expensive, too risky to pursue. The research had been buried, forgotten, locked away with the belongings of the little girl it might have saved. Miguel looked at his watch. 2:47 a.m. In a few hours, the day shift would arrive, and this box would likely be discarded with the rest of the outdated inventory. But Dr. Elizabeth Warren, according to the medical directory, Miguel had memorized from his years of cleaning administrative offices, was now Dr. Elizabeth Warren, Chief of Pediatric Oncology at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. What happened next would require Miguel to do something he'd never done in 12 years of invisible service. Become visible. Miguel took a photo of the research proposal with his flip phone and spent the rest of his shift learning how to send emails on the hospital's computer system. His message to Dr. Warren was simple, written in the careful English he'd been practicing for over a decade. Dear Dr. Warren, my name is Miguel Rodriguez. I am night janitor at St. Catherine's Medical Center. I found your research from 1987 about treatment for children with neuroblastoma. There is little girl here, room 314, Emma Chen, who has same condition. I think maybe your research could help her. I know I am just janitor, but I believe sometimes forgotten things find us when we need them most. Please, if there is any chance, please help. Miguel sent the email at 5:23 a.m., then went home to his small apartment where he knelt before a picture of his own daughter, lost to a drunk driver 3 years earlier. He prayed to a God he sometimes doubted, asking not for miracles, but for courage, the courage to have done the right thing. Dr. Warren received the email during her morning coffee in Philadelphia. At first, she nearly deleted it. Her inbox was flooded with requests, pleas and desperate messages from families around the world. But something about Miguel's words stopped her. She pulled up her old files. Research she hadn't thought about in decades. Work that had been shelved when funding dried up and priorities shifted. Her hands trembled as she realized what she was looking at. With 37 years of additional medical advances, her original research wasn't just viable, it was revolutionary. The treatment protocols she'd proposed in 1987 could now be enhanced with modern immunotherapy techniques she'd developed. It wasn't just promising. It was exactly what Emma Chen needed. Dr. Warren called St. Catherine's immediately. Within hours, she was on a plane to Denver. Sarah Chen was dozing in the chair beside Emma's bed when Dr. Martinez, Emma's oncologist, entered with a woman she didn't recognize. Sarah's heart clenched. In her experience, unknown doctors usually brought worse news. "Mrs. Chen," Dr. Martinez said gently, "I'd like you to meet Dr. Elizabeth Warren from Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. She's here because of a very unusual discovery." Dr. Warren sat down beside Sarah, her voice warm but professional. "Mrs. Chen, I know this sounds impossible, but I believe we have a treatment option for Emma that we didn't have yesterday. It's experimental, but based on research. I began 37 years ago and never had the chance to complete." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. How is that possible?" "Because," Dr. Warren said, glancing toward the hallway where Miguel stood quietly with his mop bucket, "sometimes the most important people in our lives are the ones we never notice." The next 3 weeks blurred together like a dream. Sarah was afraid to believe. In Dr. Warren's treatment protocol worked with stunning success. Emma's tumors began shrinking at a rate that had her medical team calling colleagues around the world. By week 4, Emma was sitting up, demanding chocolate pudding and asking when she could go home. The story might have ended there, with a miraculous recovery and grateful family. But the real miracle was just beginning. Miguel continued his night shifts, still invisible to most, still cleaning room 314, but now he cleaned around get-well cards from children across the country, around flower arrangements from Dr. Warren's research team, around a growing pile of letters from parents whose children had been helped by Emma's case because Dr. Warren had published their results, and other hospitals were now using the protocol. One evening, as Miguel was emptying the wastebasket, Emma called out to him. "Are you the angel man?" Miguel paused, unsure how to respond. "No, little one. I just cleaned the floors." Emma smiled. Her color finally returned, her eyes bright with life. "Mama told me that an angel found some old papers that helped make me better. She said angels sometimes look like regular people so we don't get scared." Miguel felt tears in his eyes, the first he'd allowed himself since his own daughter's funeral. "Maybe," he said quietly. "We are all angels for each other when we choose to be." 6 months later, Sarah Chen stood before the hospital's board of directors. Beside her were Dr. Warren, Emma, now cancer-free, and Miguel Rodriguez, wearing his first suit and holding a check for $2.3 million, money raised through a foundation. Sarah had started to honor medical support staff who go above and beyond. "Miguel Rodriguez saved my daughter's life," Sarah told the room, not because it was his job, not because anyone asked him to, but because he saw a need and chose to act. Today, we're establishing the Miguel Rodriguez Foundation for Medical Discovery, ensuring that promising research never again gets buried and forgotten. Miguel stepped forward, his voice steady despite his nervousness. 37 years ago, a little girl named Maria Santos died in room 314. Her kindergarten class sent her a wooden angel. Yesterday, I put that same angel on Emma's nightstand, and she asked me to give it to the next child who needs to remember that miracles are real." He held up the tiny wooden figurine, its wings still outstretched after all these years. "I have learned that we do not always get to choose our miracles, but we can choose to be part of someone else's miracle. We can choose to see what others miss. We can choose to act when others walk by." Emma, now a healthy 9-year-old, took the angel from Miguel and looked around the room. "Mr. Miguel says that title doesn't matter, not doctor, not janitor, not rich, not poor. He says the only title that matters is the one we give ourselves, when no one is looking." She turned to Miguel with a smile that could power the entire hospital. So I'm going to title her Hero. The room erupted in applause, but Miguel was looking at something else, a memo on the table, announcing the hiring of 3 new research coordinators, tasked with reviewing all archived medical research for potential breakthroughs. At the bottom of the memo, in small print, inspired by the discoveries of Miguel Rodriguez, Night Custodian. Sometimes the smallest actions create the largest waves. Sometimes the most invisible people are the most essential. And sometimes, when we choose kindness over convenience, when we choose to act rather than assume someone else will, we discover that the power to change the world has been in our hands all along. Miguel returned to his night shift, but now he cleaned with purpose, knowing that every room held possibilities. Every forgotten corner might contain someone else's miracle. And in room 314, where Emma had once fought for her life, a new patient, a 7-year-old boy named David, was sleeping peacefully, a wooden angel with outstretched wings watching over him from the nightstand. The cycle of miracles continued, one invisible act of kindness at a time.